If you've ever wondered what happened to some of the cars after they appeared on the Wheeler Dealer TV show, wonder no more, you're in the right place. This time we are going to look for the 1970 Dodge Charger. This programme first aired on the 4th of October 2011 and was the first in a series of 5 cars where they took a slightly different route, where they purchased these cars in America and then imported them to the UK, restored them and then sold them on over here. Now, of course, if you're of my generation, you can't think of a 1970 Dodge Charger without thinking of, yep, Dukes of Hazzard, where there were always conveniently placed ramps and none of the cars got damaged on landing. Anyway, the particular Dodge Charger we're looking for has registration number KRX840H, and they purchased this for the equivalent of £14,000. Needed a little bit of work doing to it, needed some front wheel bearings, the gear linkage needed replacing, it needed a power steering pump, and the headlamp motor for those sort of hidden headlamps, that wasn't working, so they had to repair that. And finally, of course, in that Dukes of Hazzard style, they fitted the Dixie horn. Now, how did the numbers work out on this one? Well, as I've already mentioned, they paid $14,000 for it. The costs of travel out there, transport to get the car back, and taxation when they arrived in the UK, that was $3,617. And the parts, now they got a lot of parts in America from a scrapyard, they only cost them $543. So once they sold it for £20,000, that left them a profit of £1,840. Now, if we do our usual fast forward to 2025, pick up our copy of Practical Classics magazine and look at their valuation guide to see how the value of that car's changed over all those years, we come to a bit of a problem. They don't list it because it was never a UK model. They do mention the Dodge Viper, sorry. That's the only Dodge they mention. So a little bit of market research, and this is one for you in the comments to correct me where I've got it horribly wrong. Price for one of those seems to be between £50,000 to £60,000 at the moment, so they have gone up quite strongly. So over that original, well, let's go middle for diddle on that, call it £55,000. So compared to the $20,000 they sold it for, that's gone up about £35,000. But please feel free to correct me in the comments if you think I've got that wrong. So the bit you're really here for, what happened to that car after the programme? Well, let's just sort out its arrival in the UK. It did have a MOT on the 8th of May 2011, and I believe this is before Wheeler Dealers had worked on it. And I think the reason is they need to MOT it before they can properly register it. It was then registered in the UK 7th of July 2011. At that time, it had a mileage of 74,350. Now, this means that they were working on that around about June, July in 2011. And it appeared for sale by the Wheeler Dealer teams on the 2nd of July on Car and Classic website, where it was up for sale for £29,950. So obviously a lot more than it ended up actually selling for. And then a couple of weeks later, there was this thread on Piston Heads where it was mentioned that the price had been dropped to £24,950. And then a couple of weeks later, the price had dropped again. This was in the archive on the 2nd of August. And the price had dropped to a flat £20,000. And that's what they actually sold it for in the end, if you remember the programme. And the next time I can find that advert, it was marked as sold. So that all ties in quite sensibly with what happened in the programme. And if we look at the MOT history to give us a bit of a heartbeat of what's been going on with that car, it's quite interesting that following that MOT by Wheeler Dealers in 2011, basically every June thereafter it was MOT'd and passed with no advisories. But the interesting thing I noticed was come the last MOT in 2017, because after that it became MOT exempt, it had only done 550 miles since the one that Wheeler Dealers had put it through. So that car really hadn't been used very much at all. So what else has this car been up to since it was on the show? Well, in July 2014, Bristol Blue Customs pictured it on X, having just wrapped it in matte black, which personally I don't think really suits it. And what I remember, the paint job didn't seem too bad, but that's each to their own. And then if we go over to My Car Check, we can see it had a change of keeper in April 2020, so literally just after the COVID kicked off. It then goes quiet again until we have a for sale ad for it on Car and Classic in May 2024. And interestingly, it's still in the Bristol area, so that 2020 change of keeper, it hadn't gone very far at all. And if we look at the mileage, it's still only 76,000 miles, so that's only 1,650 since the show. So this car really hasn't worked very hard at all. And if we go back to my car check, we can see that for sale ad turned very quickly into a change of keeper, because in May 2024 it changed hands again. And interestingly, I know where it went. It went to Oban in Scotland, which is a mere 475 miles up the country. Not quite as far from Bristol as you could get, but it's a fair way. So how do I know that? Well, PCP Ecos, which are a car moving transport company based up in Glasgow, they pictured it on their Facebook thread, having picked it up at Oban in Scotland and taken it down to Ian Tyrrell Classic Cars in Chester, which was another 350 mile trip. And interestingly, I think, you know, with the amount of mile or few miles this car's done, it's almost done as many miles in the sort of back of a trailer as it has actually on the road. And for those of you that aren't aware of Ian Tyrrell's, they are very much a top-end restoration company. They do Lamborghinis, Ferraris, all that kind of thing. So that car is very much in a safe pair of hands. Be interested to see whether they keep that wrap, because I think it ought to go back to the shiny paint underneath. But hey, who knows? Only time will tell. So that is another one. We know of its current location. It hasn't done very much work, but it certainly looks like it's being loved and having some money invested in it. So I hope you've enjoyed that, and if you have, please do us a great favour and tickle that subscribe button for us. Catch you next time.